By the final years of the war, traditional amphibious landings had become a brutal arithmetic of attrition. Standard infantry units were often forced to advance through the surf, completely exposed to fortified machine gun nests with no available cover. The German military had spent years reinforcing these coastlines with concrete bunkers and miles of trenches. Attempting to overcome these defenses through sheer numbers alone was becoming mathematically unsustainable for the Allied command. Even when the lines broke, the terrain itself became an enemy. Advancing units struggled through deep, churned-up mud that trapped heavy vehicles, leaving frontline troops isolated and low on supplies. To solve these logistical and combat hurdles, the military turned to extremes. They began utilizing sophisticated visual illusion and raw animal muscle. Victory required moving away from traditional tactics and embracing the bizarre, utilizing units and recruits that the enemy would never expect to see on a battlefield. The United States established a top-secret unit known as the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, the Ghost Army. Instead of career soldiers, this unit was recruited from the nation's top art schools, advertising agencies, and sound studios. Their primary weapon was deception. They deployed hundreds of inflatable rubber tanks and fake artillery pieces that looked indistinguishable from the real thing to German reconnaissance pilots flying overhead. They backed up the visuals with auditory warfare, using massive industrial speakers to blast the recorded sounds of armored divisions. To an enemy scout in the woods, it sounded like a massive tank column was moving just over the next ridge. This diagram shows how they manipulated German intelligence. By broadcasting false coordinates over decoy radio networks, they successfully pulled entire German divisions away from the actual Allied objectives. These men operated with almost no defense, purposefully drawing enemy fire and heavy artillery toward their own positions to protect the real troops miles away. The Ghost Army proved that in modern warfare, the ability to manipulate an enemy's perception of the battlefield is as powerful as a loaded rifle. While the Americans perfected the art of the invisible, the Polish army relied on the very real physical presence of their most unusual recruit, a Syrian brown bear named Wojtek. Adopted as a cub in the Middle East, Wojtek was eventually given the rank of private so he could be officially manifested on transport ships. He became a staple of the unit, wrestling with the men and sharing their meager rations. During the Battle of Monte Cassino, the terrain was a landscape of pulverized stone and craters. The incline was so steep and the rubble so thick that standard supply trucks were rendered useless. Wojtek began mimicking the soldiers, picking up 100-pound crates of artillery shells and carrying them to the front lines. Between these runs, he provided a rare source of comfort, wrestling in the dirt and sharing the soldiers' beer in the middle of a landscape defined by death. While the Ghost Army stayed in the shadows to avoid contact, Wojtek worked in the open, moving through active artillery fire to keep the Polish guns firing. Wojtek solved a critical logistical bottleneck through sheer physical strength, ensuring the ammunition reached the heights when motorized transport had long since failed. The Ghost Army's illusions repeatedly fractured German defenses, directly saving an estimated tens of thousands of Allied lives by preventing battles that never needed to happen. Wojtek's ammunition runs were so vital that the 22nd Transport Company eventually adopted a bear carrying a shell as their official insignia. He became a living reminder that even in the most brutal conditions, unconventional comrades could provide the endurance needed to win. This chart tracks the evolution of tactical deception. The Ghost Army proved weaponizing information is as critical as your physical arsenal. Their work laid the foundation for modern psychological operations, defeating an enemy's command structure before they reach the battlefield. Wojtek's legacy shows the immeasurable impact of morale and integration. He proved that when human endurance reaches its limit, the presence of a loyal comrade can be the deciding factor in a unit's survival. We are left with the stories of a phantom army that was never truly there, and a bear who refused to leave his unit's side. World War II was won through the creative ingenuity that conjured divisions from thin air and the animal strength that hauled the supplies those divisions relied on.